Oh, somebody coming. Car. Welcome to Toronto! So for our 4th episode and 5th episode, we're actually coming from 2 different places on the same date. On Friday, March 22nd. Was it the 22nd?
Yeah.
It was. Car. God damn it, cars. Fuck. Last Friday on March 22nd, there were 2 different shows happening in 2 different parts of the city. That meant that we had to split up and find different ways of getting this whole episode thing started, finished. Fuck. And a van, and a truck. Lord. Last Friday on March 22nd, there were 2 different shows happening at the same time in the city, which meant that we had to get more people on board for the Hard Stuff team. So, we asked a bunch of different people, and they'll be thanked at the end of the episode accordingly. That means that we're both growing and expanding. It's the same fucking thing. It's so fucking redundant. Alright, take it from the top, I suppose.
Go ahead.
1 sec. Alright. Last Friday on March 22nd, there were 2 shows happening in the city. Damn it. Yeah? Pardon me.
Oh. Okay.
Last Friday on March 22nd, we had to figure out a way to get 2 shows at once. Normally it's just Jordan and myself, but we had a whole host of other people join us on the team. Shit! The first band that was put on was that... Fuck. One last try. Okay. The first band we're showing you for the episode is... And here's what they're all about.
I was helping to run a show at Soy Bomb that this band from the Midwest called Grown Ups was on, and Matt had just moved here from Michigan. I just moved here, and Grown Ups are like one of my favorite bands.
Yeah,
it's so
totally.
cool. Oh, it's awesome. You just moved here. Yeah. Definitely come and we'll hang out. And his enthusiasm when Grown Ups played was, it's actually kind of obscene when I think about it. Just had way too much fun. Known Rohan through other stuff before, and yeah, we ended up all 3 of us sitting at CEDs, getting drinking too much, and kind of talking about why we hadn't started a band yet. And we were just like, we can do this. It's now. We can do it now. I think we'd been jamming for like 2 months before we played our first show.
Yeah.
Now we're okay. Before it was a little fast and loose.
I mean, it was really nice to have things happen so quickly. You know, because I was in a bunch of like crappy ska bands and a bunch of joke bands before I came here, and this is like the first, the first like touring, putting out material, playing shows consistently, and it's awesome. Like, it's so great to be a part of this bigger thing that we have going I read that book, Our Band Could Be Your Life, a few years ago, and it was just the way that they conducted themselves, and I think I respected the whole like econo philosophy that the Minutemen had, because Fugazi were very steadfast in their ways, and then Beat Happening were just, like super punk, and people would yell at them and spit on them and stuff, and they would still come out and they would do their thing as if like nothing was happening. I'm more kind of driven by the ethos of DIY and punk, and that's what kind of brings me to this kind of stuff. So.
I discovered like the concept of like post-hardcore and stuff when I was probably like 16, and I was really impressed by it, but it was particularly like when I started, a friend of mine like insisted, because I liked some like faster stuff. You might check out like, Orchid, because this band's awesome, and I swear it was on my computer for months before I ever listened to it. But I think it just kind of clicked, and I got really into it. I started reading about them, fell in love with it. Personally, I really love just like anything that just feels super frantic and kind of frenetic, and just shit like that. Like it was weird, because that's when I started understanding that these bands were made up of like individual people who actually live their lives way outside of music. And particularly as someone who knows like I can't be a career musician whether I'd like to or not, it doesn't make it any less valuable or important. If anything, it makes the time I spend and the effort I put into it all the more kind of fun and enjoyable. I think it's been really, really awesome and really beneficial part of my life in general for years now. We're weird. we're a weird group of people to ask that to, because we all have very different concepts of a good time. I think it's a good time when, like, you know, bands all play their sets and it's really fun and clean and like all good, and then everyone like in an orderly fashion files out. We all go and, like, you know, hang out and kind of like do whatever, and just like, I'm like, to me, just talking about records and it's like, you know, maybe like smoking some pot is like the greatest thing ever. Our newest member, Peter, he's a lot more like me, I guess. So it's kind of funny because the band's kind of more evened out now. It's like half rage, half like moderate rage. We can get crazy, but just not at the same ratio.
And I think that's what kind of keeps things balanced, is that we're not all like insanely irresponsible. You know, like
definitely irresponsible in each or different ways. One of the things that's funny is like I might roll my eyes and kind of just be like, guys, fuck, like put down the beers for like 10 minutes. But at the same time, like when we need to get shit done, we get it done, which is amazing. I don't know how to rent a car. Like I don't even have a license. So it's really cool that I'm with 3 other guys who are actually totally like responsible, which when they need to be, but whatever. So
we were willing to work on it.
We were doing it for the cause.
That's right. Doing it for the people. Doing it for the children.
Playing in Indianapolis at a house of this like, you know, anarcho vegan Reich dude who spent the entire time outside like just kind of jokingly bickering with his wife about like where he got his cocaine money from. And it was I think my favorite part of the whole evening though was him telling me, yeah man, I don't normally like that screamo shit and let it happen in my house, but I hear you guys are like emo violence and like that's cool.
The coolest thing, and because this is so new to me, there's so many things that I'm experiencing right now. This whole touring thing, putting out material, and it's not that I had any level of expectation prior to doing it, but it's so nice to go to a city or just like plan out a tour and have people like really excited to see you. You know, I would say the majority of the people that we meet, you know, and that we hang out with are really awesome people. They want to visit, you want to visit them. Like it's cool to feel like you're a part of something like that's happening, and like people are really, you know, like involved in it, and they want to help you out, but they also like, it's not just to like sustain it, but they just want to hang out, and like that's really cool to me. You see them on tour or you see them wherever else, and it's as if like, you know, you pick up where you left off.
We have a long-delayed split with the band from Ottawa called Sart. Both bands switched members and re-recorded each side. We just did our own 7-inch, which we're gonna have out also probably early summer, called Lathe.
2 weeks from now, from this Friday, we will be flying to St. John's to play 3 shows, and then we're gonna go tour the Midwest United States and the East Coast, I guess, a little bit. Should be fun.
Yeah.